portraits are ancestral patterns, collective, familial, inherited complexes. The locked door is repression, the barrier to the unconscious. Your palm opening it suggests something crucial. The ego cannot unlock integration with intellect alone. It opens through direct contact, through lived experience, through feeling, through the body. The pool of dark water is the unconscious itself, deep, still, reflective, but you do not see yourself. You see others. This is exactly the empath's fate, to encounter other people's unconscious contents, to perceive what they do not admit, to see the submerged truth. And the snake is one of the oldest archetypes. It can represent wisdom, transformation, danger, libido, psychic energy itself. In this dream, the snake is the guardian of that knowledge. It warns you that seeing this truth is not free. It will change you. It will require you to shed skins, identities, roles, relationships. So the dream tells you your aura is rare because you have touched that pool. You have looked where others refuse to look, and now people feel it. They feel the snake behind your eyes. Not literally, of course, but symbolically. They sense you have access to depths that could expose them, heal them, or destroy their masks. That is why they react before you speak. Do not underestimate this. Do not naively think, I am just sensitive. Sensitivity without integration is a wound. Sensitivity with integration becomes a force of nature, and forces of nature do not need to announce themselves. The ocean does not. You don't speak, yet you feel it. The night sky does not argue, yet it changes your mood. A locked door does not threaten you, yet your body senses what it contains. So it is with you. Now let us be even more precise. What makes the empath integrated? It is not the absence of fear. It is not constant kindness. It is not spiritual positivity. Integration means you have begun to hold opposites. You have realized that you can love and also say no. You can understand and also walk away. You can see suffering and not sacrifice yourself. You can be soft and not be taken. You can be compassionate and still refuse participation in someone's unconscious drama. This holding of opposites is the birth of the self, not the ego self, but the deeper organizing center Jung called the self. When the self begins to emerge, it produces a quiet authority. Not loud dominance, not performative confidence, but a psychic stability that others feel like gravity. And here, this is where the title becomes exact. People feel you before you speak because the self speaks without words. The self radiates order into chaos, and chaos hates order until it becomes order. So your presence becomes a test. Those who are ready to individuate will feel drawn, relieved, inspired. Those who are invested in repression will feel exposed, irritated, threatened. Those who are addicted to projection will try to make you into something: savior, enemy, judge, lover, mother, devil. And if you are not careful, you will be tempted to accept their roles again, because roles are familiar, and familiarity feels like safety, even when it is poison. This is why the phenomenon is dangerous, obsessive, fated, as you said, because it can shape destiny. If you misunderstand your aura, you will keep trying to shrink it to be acceptable. You will keep explaining, softening, apologizing. You will keep performing innocence so that others do not feel judged. But you cannot protect people from their own unconscious reaction to truth. And if you keep trying, you will lose your life. Yes, your life. Because the integrated empath's task is not to become less felt, it is to become more real. To learn how to walk through the world as a mirror without becoming shattered by what it reflects. And in the next movement of our exploration, we must confront the hardest part. Why your aura attracts resentment, obsession, and power games, and why the unintegrated will either worship you or punish you. Because the more coherent you become, the more you awaken the shadow in others. And the shadow, when awakened, does not politely introduce itself. It attacks, or it seduces, or it lies, or it clings. So if you have ever wondered why your quiet presence sometimes triggers chaos around you, why you can walk into a room calm and suddenly someone becomes dramatic, then you are already sensing the truth. Your aura is not causing it. Your aura is revealing what was already there. And revelation is always the beginning of transformation or war. Let us continue deeper into this. And I will show you how projection targets you, how persona reacts to you, how complexes try to recruit you into old roles, and how true Jungian integration turns your aura from a burden into a path so you do not become a prisoner of being felt. but the master of what that feeling awakens in yourself and in others. You see, what most people call aura is usually nothing more than emotional contagion, an unprocessed mood that leaks from the body. It is the nervous laugh that begs for approval. It is the aggressive confidence that hides terror. It is the sweetness that conceals hunger. That kind of aura is loud, unstable, and easily manipulated. But the aura we are speaking of, the rare aura of the integrated empath, is something else entirely. It is not mood. It is not charm. It is not even kindness. It is coherence. And coherence is one of the most threatening forces in the psychological world because it unmasks fragmentation without effort. That is why people feel you before you speak. Their unconscious meets your coherence and suddenly hears the noise inside itself. They may not know they are hearing it. They will call it intuition. They will call it vibes. They will say you are intense or mysterious. But what they are truly encountering is the gravitational pull of an inner life that has begun to organize itself around truth. And that begins to activate automatically the three great defensive systems of the unintegrated psyche: persona, projection, and complex possession. Let us begin with persona. The persona is not merely a mask. It is a survival technology. It is the face you were forced to build in order to be loved. It is the image you learned to wear to avoid punishment. It is the emotional costume that says, this is what you will accept, so this is what I will show you. In ordinary social life, people meet each other personally to personally. Two masks greet, two masks negotiate. Two masks trade politeness like currency. This is why so much human conversation feels empty. It is the sound of masks speaking to masks. But when you become integrated, the persona changes. You still have a social face, yes, but it becomes transparent. It stops trying to hypnotize people into liking you. It stops begging to be seen as good, pure, harmless. It becomes a simple interface rather than a prison. And then you walk into a room of masks. You do not attack them. You do not criticize them. You simply arrive with less mask, and the unconscious of the other person panics because your presence asks without words, "Why are you hiding?" Now, if the other person is ready to grow, your presence feels like relief. They will breathe more deeply. Their shoulders will drop. They will speak more honestly around you without knowing why. They may tell you secrets. They may cry unexpectedly. They may feel safe not because you are weak, but because you are real. But if the other person is invested in their mask, your presence will feel like a threat. They will start performing harder. They will start talking more, or making jokes, or becoming cold, or becoming flirty, or attempting dominance, anything, to restore the old rhythm of persona-based control. This is why in certain rooms you will notice the strangest pattern. You say nothing yet someone begins to explain themselves to you defensively, as if you accuse them. Or someone becomes hostile toward you without a clear cause. Or someone tries to impress you desperately. They are not reacting to your behavior. They are reacting to the collapse of their persona in your field because coherence is like a bright lamp. It reveals dust in the air that was always there but invisible in darkness. Now let us go deeper. Projection. Projection is where your rare aura becomes truly faded. Because when you are integrated, you become like a clean mirror. And the clean mirror is unbearable to a psyche full of denied images. That is why people feel you before you speak. You become a surface onto which their unconscious. Conscious immediately paints. And what does it paint? Exactly what they cannot bear to own. A person who is denied their cruelty will feel you as cruel even if you are gentle. A person who is denied their longing will feel you as tempting even if you are neutral. A person who is denied their shame will feel you as judgment even if you are kind. A person who is denied their spiritual hunger will feel you as too intense because your presence awakens what they have starved. So you must understand this with precision. The integrated empath does not merely sense projection. The integrated empath attracts it, not because you are arrogant, not because you want attention, but because the unconscious seeks resolution. The psyche is always trying to become whole. When a fragmented person encounters wholeness, even partial wholeness, it triggers an unconscious attempt at completion. And the easiest way for the unconscious to attempt completion is to throw the missing pieces onto you. This is why people become obsessed with you quickly. Sometimes they do not know you, yet they feel they know you. They speak as if you are special. They idealize you. They see you as their destiny. But this is not love yet. This is projection. They are not seeing you. They are seeing the part of themselves they have lost, and because they cannot locate it inside themselves, they hallucinate it in you. This is why you have likely experienced the disturbing cycle of idealization and devaluation. Someone worships you, then punishes you. Someone says you are healing, then calls you selfish. Someone feels you are their home, then claims you are cold, because their projection eventually fails. Reality breaks the spell. You do something human. You set a boundary. You disappoint them. And suddenly their unconscious realizes, this is not my missing soul. This is a separate person with will. And the ego cannot tolerate the pain of that collapse. So it converts disappointment into accusation. They blame you for not being the fantasy they invented. And so their love turns into rage. This is how projection creates tragedy. And this is why your aura feels dangerous. It attracts the unintegrated like fire attracts insects. And now we must speak of the third mechanism, complexes. A complex is not simply a wound. It is an inner personality formed around intense emotional charge, usually from childhood trauma or repeated relational pattern. And complexes recognize each other in the dark. Yes, this is crucial. The psyche has its own sense of smell. A wounded father complex will recognize a person who resembles father energy. A mother complex will recognize mother energy. A savior complex will recognize someone who looks like a patient. A victim complex will recognize someone who looks like a rescuer. And integrated empaths often have a powerful signature. They look like salvation to the wounded, not because you promise it, but because your coherence feels like what they never had. So their complex rushes toward you like a starving animal toward food. And you feel it. You feel the hunger in their eyes. You feel the unspoken demand. Fix me, stay, carry me. This is the empath's ancient curse, being mistaken for a psychic parent. This is where your destiny becomes most distorted if you do not remain conscious. Because if you confuse their complex hunger for love, you will step into the old role again. You will become the emotional caretaker. You will become the container. You will become the silent therapist, and you will call it devotion. But the integrated empath begins to see the pattern before it becomes bondage. They recognize the complex speaking through the person. They hear the hidden contract forming. They feel the role being assigned. And this is where your aura becomes terrifying to certain people, because you do not accept the role. You smile perhaps softly, but you do not surrender your boundaries. And the complex does not like boundaries. Complexes hate reality. They want repetition. They want the old wound to replay so it can feel familiar. So when you refuse, the complex panics and you witness something strange. The person changes. Their eyes change. Their tone changes. They become manipulative or cold or accusing or needy or cruel. You are witnessing possession. You are not speaking to the adult anymore. You are speaking to the complex. And this is why your aura is rare, because integration gives you the capacity to see possession without being hypnotized by it. Most people get pulled into the drama. You begin to stand outside it, still compassionate, still aware, but no longer inside the spell. And yes, this creates loneliness, because the spell is social currency. Many relationships are built not on truth, but on mutual possession. Two wounded children clinging to each other's masks. When you stop clinging, the relationship collapses. And again, people will call you cold. Let them. They do not mean cold. They mean you are no longer available to my uncons. Shus needs. Now let us turn to the shadow dimension, because the integrated empath's aura becomes rare precisely because you have begun to integrate shadow. Shadow integration is not becoming dark or edgy. Shadow integration is reclaiming disowned life. It is bringing back your anger so it can become discernment. It is bringing back your selfishness so it can become boundaries. It is bringing back your ambition so it can become purpose. It is bringing back your erotic energy so it can become vitality rather than seduction. It is bringing back your cruelty not to enact it but to recognize you are capable of it, so you stop projecting it outward. This is the beginning of psychological adulthood. And psychological adulthood has a scent. Animals know it. Children know it. Narcissists know it. Wounded lovers know it. They sense. This person cannot be easily controlled. They feel you before you speak because the shadow has made you less naive. Naive is not innocence. It is unconsciousness. Shadow integration ends unconsciousness. And this is precisely what threatens manipulative people. They survive on unconsciousness. They survive on your confusion, your guilt, your desire to be seen as good. The integrated empath no longer needs to be seen as good. They need to be real. And the moment you stop needing to be seen as good, guilt loses its power over you. This is why your aura feels like a locked door to certain people. They try the old keys: flattery, shame, pity, accusation, seduction, but the door does not open. And so they feel anxiety in your presence because the part of them that seeks control cannot penetrate you. Now let us use the second dream vignette, because dreams often dramatize this exact transformation. You dream you are walking in a labyrinth. The labyrinth is made of stone, ancient, damp. The walls are high and narrow, and you can barely see the sky. You hear footsteps behind you, but never see anyone. Sometimes you hear whispering as if your name is B-I-N-G spoken. You keep turning corners searching for an exit. Then you arrive at the center, and there is a pedestal with a small flame, just a single steady flame protected by glass. Beside it is a bowl of water, and beside the bowl is a crown made of thorns, beautiful and terrifying. You stare at these objects, not knowing what to do. Then you hear a voice not from above, but from within the walls. If you take the flame, you will never be lost again. If you take the water, you will never burn again. If you take the crown, you will never be innocent again. You wake trembling. Now listen. This dream is an image of individuation. The labyrinth is the psyche, especially the empathic psyche, where you have been trapped in other people's emotions, other people's demands, other people's stories. The footsteps behind you are your complexes chasing you: guilt, savior, fear of rejection. The center of the labyrinth is the self. The flame is integrated consciousness, inner light that does not end on approval. The water is emotional anesthesia, avoidance, dissociation, the temptation to feel nothing. The crown of thorns is the price of truth. Once you become conscious, you cannot return to innocent participation in unconscious games. What does an integrated empath choose? Not the water, because numbness is not freedom. It is death disguised as peace. They choose the flame. They accept burning. They accept discomfort. They accept loneliness, but they gain orientation. They stop being lost. And this is why in waking life people feel you before you speak. You are not lost anymore. And the lost are always stirred by the presence of someone who has direction. It makes them hope or hate. Now we must bring in anima and animus, because your aura is also shaped by the inner opposite. If you are a man, the anima, your inner feminine, mediates emotion, intuition, symbolic perception. If you are a woman, the animus, your inner masculine, mediates clarity, logos, discernment, boundary. An empath often begins with one-sidedness. Too much anima without animus, or too much animus without anima. Too much anima without animus becomes emotional flooding, fusion, lack of boundaries. Too much animus without anima becomes coldness, rigidity, intellectual defense. Integration means the opposites begin to marry, and this marriage produces aura. When your inner feminine and inner masculine stop warring, your presence becomes whole, and wholeness is felt. It is felt as calm authority. It is felt as quiet sensuality. It is felt as I cannot read you easily, which is not secrecy but depth. It is felt as this person has a center, and people who lack a center feel that as danger, because without a center, they are ruled by impulses, moods, social approval. So again, they feel you before you speak. Now let me show you the consequences. If you do not recognize this, if you do not recognize what you carry, you will do one of two tragic things. You will either shrink or you will inflate. Shrinky. NG means you will try to be less felt. You will become quieter than your soul. You will apologize for your depth. You will avoid eye contact. You will become agreeable to reduce tension. You will dull your light to prevent provoking envy or hostility. And this will slowly turn into depression, because you will be living as a ghost of yourself. Inflation means you will interpret your aura as superiority. You will begin to identify with being special, chosen, psychic, above others. You will secretly enjoy the effect you have, and that will attract the darkest projections and the worst possession. Because inflation invites archetypal punishment. The psyche hates arrogance. The gods in us punish hubris. So the integrated path is neither shrink nor inflate. It is to stand in sober truth, to understand. Yes, I have presence. Yes, my coherence is felt. But this is not a trophy. It is a responsibility. I must not use it to control others, and I must not allow others to use it to control me. This is I. Individuation. Now you may ask, how do you live with this aura without becoming isolated or attacked? You must learn the deepest skill of the integrated empath, withdrawing energy from projection. This is not a technique. It is a spiritual, psychological discipline. When someone projects onto you, you do not fight it. You do not explain yourself endlessly. You do not perform innocence. You do not try to make them understand. You simply refuse to carry what is not yours. You remain kind but not porous. You remain present but not available for possession. This is a subtle thing. It looks externally like calm, but internally it is a firm refusal. I will not be recruited into your unconscious story. And this refusal changes everything, because projection requires participation. It requires you to react. It requires you to feel guilty. It requires you to defend. When you stop reacting, the projection collapses back onto them, and they feel uncomfortable because now they must face their own contents. This is why some people disappear from your life when you integrate. They do not leave because you did something wrong. They leave because you stop doing their inner work for them. You stop being their mirror that also comforts them. You became a mirror that reflects without soothing, and only the mature can tolerate such reflection. The immature will call it cold. The integrated will call it freedom. Now let us hold 3 symbols, as promised, not as decoration but as living tools. The mirror, the labyrinth, the snake. The mirror is your presence, reflective, revealing. The labyrinth is the psychological world, confusion, roles, complexes. The snake is transformation, shedding skin, wisdom, danger. Your aura is rare because you carry all 3 simultaneously. You reflect truth, mirror. You have survived confusion, labyrinth. And you have shed skin, snake. People feel that even if they cannot articulate it, their body knows. That is why sometimes a stranger will trust you quickly, and why sometimes a stranger will dislike you instantly. They are not reacting to your words. They are reacting to an archetype awakened by your presence. And now here is the most frightening truth I will give you today. When you become integrated, you become less controllable by collective norms. The collective thrives on sameness. The collective rewards those who perform the expected persona. But integration makes you unpredictable, not chaotic, but independent. You no longer follow emotional gravity blindly. You do not chase what everyone chases. You do not fear what everyone fears. And this independence makes your aura feel rare, because most people are still owned by the herd. So you become a sign of possibility, and possibility threatens mediocrity. This is why envy will sometimes rise around you like smoke, not because you boast, but because your existence reminds others of what they abandoned in themselves. They will call you too much truth for a life built on avoidance, too much depth for a life built on distraction, too much integrity for a life built on performance. So again, they feel you before you speak. Now in the next movement, we will go even deeper into the transformation path, the exact steps of Jungian integration that produce this aura. How you confront shadow without becoming bitter. How you dissolve savior complex without becoming indifferent. How you integrate power without becoming cruel. And how you finally speak without losing your quiet gravity. Because the integrated empath's rare aura is not meant to remain silent forever. It is meant to become conscious speech. Speech that does not seek approval. Speech that does not beg to be understood. Speech that emerges from the self. And when that happens, you will discover something else. People felt you before you spoke, but after you speak, they will never be able to unfeel you again. And so here is your destiny. The rare aura of the integrated empath is not a decorative phenom. It is not a mystical accessory. It is an outcome, an effect of something painfully earned: individuation. And individuation is not a nice journey. It is psychological disobedience. It is the refusal to remain a loyal servant of your complexes. So I want to take you now into the real mechanism. How exactly this aura is formed in the Jungian sense. What phases create it, and why once it is formed, it makes people feel you like weather. Because your aura is not merely sensed by intuition. It is sensed by the body of other people. Their nervous system reads you like a climate, and climate does not ask permission. It changes the room. This is why for the integrated empath, the greatest temptation is to believe your gift is under control if you keep quiet, but quietness is not control. Silence can be the deepest form of hiding, and many empaths, especially those who have been punished for their light, mistake hiding for maturity. So we must speak bluntly. The integrated empath's aura is form, ed through 3 psychological conquests, not achievements, conquests. Because you take something back that was stolen from you. You reclaim your boundaries, your sovereign perimeter. You reclaim your shadow, your disowned power. You reclaim your inner opposite, your missing axis. When these 3 come into alignment, the aura appears not as magic, as inevitability. Let us begin with boundaries. Most people imagine boundaries as behavior saying no, stepping away, refusing. That is only the outer skin. Boundaries begin deeper. A boundary is a psychic border, the line that separates what is yours from what belongs to the other. An unintegrated empath does not have this border. They have empathy, yes, but they have no sovereignty. They absorb, they fuse, they feel responsible. And because they feel responsible, they are easily recruited by other people's unconscious. The integrated empath becomes dangerous because they stop being recruitable. This is why your aura feels rare. It is the aura of a person who cannot be forced into emotional servitude.